I am a native San Antonian, and I am fourth generation part of this community, so it holds a very special place in my heart. In addition to that, one of the main benefactors who helped open the doors of this museum was a gentleman named Oscar Ehrenberg, and he was one of the first survivors I had ever met and made a huge impact on my life. And so it has always been something that's near and dear to my heart and very important to me. And I've always held fast to the idea and the tenet that we are all created the same. It doesn't matter what we look like, what we sound like, what we believe in. Inside, we're all the same, and it's important to be able to respect other people and to respect others and teach them in the community.
I was born in a city in Poland by the name of Radom, and quite a large family. I had a very, very happy childhood. Germany invaded Poland on September the 1st, 1939, and all schooling was forbidden. That was the most tragic day for me, because I love to read and teach other kids to read. Although my sister was a social butterfly, she didn't want to learn, she just wanted to play all the time. Once we were invaded by the Germans, life became almost unbearable. You had to wear a star all the time, and you were Jewish. If you had a radio to take it to City Hall, since they had all our names, they would come unexpected and search. If they found a radio in your house, they would either imprison you, beat you up, or even shoot you, believe it or not. And so my father got a letter to occupy our house. All of a sudden, their big truck drove up to our door, throwing our things out through the window, through the door. But we had such a wonderful, wonderful Gentile neighbors. They came in asking our father, would he like for us to stay with them till after the war, not realizing how long that war would last, which lasted almost 4.5 years. So my father took a minute asking us kids, would we like to stay with our neighbor? And from the little one to the oldest one, we all start crying. We didn't want to go with our neighbors. We wanted to be with our family. We loved our family.
The museum is open to the community 5 days a week, and we offer educational opportunities to the general community, but we're really focused on educating students as well. It amazes me that over 50% of millennials and Gen Z have no idea what a concentration camp is. They couldn't even tell you the name of one. And so here we offer students the opportunity to come in, to have a docent-led tour, to hear about the history of the Holocaust, how the Nazis came to power, what happened during that time frame, and then to also be able to hear either from a local Holocaust survivor or the child of a Holocaust survivor, where they really get that first-hand account of what it was like during that time, what the individual experiences were like, the atrocities that occurred. And from there, they start to begin to understand how easily this happened, how easily it could have been them in that person's shoes, and to take those lessons away with them, to become an upstander in our community, not sidling idly by when they see things happening around them, and to take those lessons home and integrate them into their families as well.
In the ghetto, hunger was so rampant, almost impossible. Was so hard. You were continuously hungry. In order to get a bread, there was a bakery inside, and the Germans were in charge of it. We stayed in line, we get up at midnight, stayed the whole night. If we were lucky enough, before they sold out, you might have gotten the bread. Life was exceptionally difficult. The Germans would come in every day asking for quota people to go to work. for them. At the beginning, people was more than happy to go to work for the Germans. Because if you had a chance to go out from the ghetto, you had a chance of purchasing maybe some food and bring it in. But in spite that they needed us to work, they would beat us up so badly that people decided to start hiding out. Our wonderful, wonderful neighbors risked their life coming to the ghetto, to the gates from the ghetto, every few days bringing us a little something to eat. My father begged me and my sister, since we were running in the ghetto around, please tell our wonderful neighbors not to risk their life. What if Polish police or the Germans would catch him? They wouldn't ask questions, they might just shoot him or even kill him. And I wouldn't want to have that on my conscience. Please, please beg them, as much as this food that they bring me is necessary and I appreciate it. But their life is worth much more. But to no avail, they still kept on doing it. Going on 43, 44, we were sent to Auschwitz. We were sent with the second group as we were staying August 16. The first group, thank God, I still was with my family. But on the second, I was completely deprived of my family. I was just standing, we were standing holding my grandmother's hand. All of a sudden, my grandmother turned her head and saw Germans pulling out children from mother's arms. Mothers not wanting to give up their children. They threw their children on the cement and shoot the mother first. When my grandmother saw that, she started running. I grabbed her. Grandma, where are you running? She said she was going to pick up those children. I said, Grandma, don't you realize what's happening? And tried to push her back online. When the German noticed the commotion, he come running. He come over running and asked first, what's going on here? I tried to answer, nothing, sir, nothing, sir. He turned his rifle around, hit me really hard. I still have a bald spot. Hair never grew back. And the next thing I heard was a shot. I shot my grandmother. It took me many, many years to block out that vision from my mind and trying to see and wondering how many people had stepped on the body of my grandmother since we were continuously pushed forward. It was many, many, many years to be able even to forget.
The Butterfly Project is moving into the future with hope and truth and justice in mind. So the idea is that it's real. It's something that's tangible that the students can actually put in their hands and work on. And at the end of looking at the primary resources and reading the primary resources for that week, they got to choose one word that would prevent the Holocaust or any other future atrocities. And the presentation to the museum was the culmination of that.
My word was courage. Respect, because people need it. Sometimes I realize that many of us lack it, and it's important that we use it in our everyday life.
It is a law in the state of Texas. Make sure that we commemorate Holocaust during January. And so we looked on the website. We said, we have a Holocaust museum here. Why don't we reach out to the museum? And we made a connection that way.
Our target audience is throughout South Texas. So we serve up to Austin and down south and east to Corpus Christi. And we work really hard to develop curriculum and online resources for those teachers, as well as educational trunks and traveling exhibits that we're able to share that teachers can come check out for free and utilize in their classrooms. So I actually learned about Senate Bill 1828 as a member and a leader in the Jewish community. I had heard about the desire to create some type of legislation or some type of mandate that would allow teachers to teach the Holocaust and the idea of the lessons behind the Holocaust within their classrooms every year. And I was thrilled to hear that it had finally been enacted and had become law so that all students every year will learn some aspect of the Holocaust, not just the history of the Holocaust, but more importantly, especially these days, the lessons learned from the Holocaust.
It was providential. Happened to be driving home a little earlier than normal, which allowed me to catch a noon show of Texas Public Radio. And there were 4 people on the radio. They call themselves 4 ladies in the car. And 3 of them are daughters of Holocaust survivors. Jenny Wind, Barta Radner, and Sharon Scharf Greenwald. And the 4th was Lisa Berry, a teacher in Alamo Heights who has been teaching about the Holocaust for the last 17 or 18 years. And so they were quoting some of the work by Rhonda Fink Whitman out of the Philly area, another Jewish educator who had been mentioning some horrific statistics. About 41% of all Americans and I think 66% of millennials didn't even know what Auschwitz was. And many of them were confused in terms of how did Hitler come to power, how many Jews were murdered. There was a great sense of confusion which allowed for many people who deny that the Holocaust ever existed to plant their seeds and to grow these movements of denial. And so I was overwhelmed, I was shocked, I couldn't believe it. And then the thing that made me the most sad was when I heard them say that they had been to Austin, they had knocked on doors, they had been looking for someone to help them file legislation and they couldn't find anybody. And so I called the radio in and I said, well look, come to my office, call me either today or tomorrow and we'll work on filing the bill.
The 4 ladies in a car, that name, that moniker of ours came along the first time we were driving to Austin. We had been looking for a sponsor for a Holocaust education bill for the state of Texas.
And I said, who are we? What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. She said, who are we to be doing this? We don't know what we're doing, even though we'd done research and everything prepared for this. But after she said that, we went, yeah, really? We're just 4 ladies in a car driving up to Austin.
That's true. And that's how it was born.
Yeah.
Initially, they didn't know who we were or why we were there, really. I mean, who are these 4 ladies showing up with a bill? You know, we drafted a bill and saying, here, do this. It just didn't go over well initially.
Yeah.
The legislation, this is really an amazing thing. It was 100% bipartisan support. There was not one vote against it on either side.
It absolutely can start in kindergarten, not necessarily teaching the horrors of the Holocaust, but teaching acts of kindness, how to be kind to one another, how to tolerate. So 1st through 3rd grade should be focusing on teaching kindness to the kids, and then 4th grade start introducing what happened in the Holocaust. But now I'm beginning to realize it's not just the kids, it's the adults as well. It's the educators. How can the teachers teach if they themselves don't understand? And then my mind goes even further to start to think about, well, does everyone at City Hall know? You know, do the police understand?
I'm not a Jewish person. I'm a Christian person. Born and raised, my grandfather was an Assembly of God minister. I've seen both sides of bystander and upstander. And what really started it all for me was long before I was ever a teacher. I was a high school student in a small school, and we had our valedictorian to be was just harassed and bullied, and he took his life. And I just kind of pushed that out of my head for all these years until I was a teacher one year. And this one child in my class was just getting harassed and bullied. And I would discipline the students doing it. There would be consequences. I would help the student being bullied, but it would start all over again. And so I wondered, what in the world can I do? I need help, because when I looked down and I saw that kid's eyes looking up at me, help, I could see that he had the potential to take his life if this didn't stop. Why did I sit when I was a kid? Why did I sit and do nothing? And I realized that's what a bystander is. They're usually afraid to stand up because they don't want to be the next victim. And once I understood that, then I started coming up with skills to teach them through children of the Holocaust. And that's where I started learning about it. And I thought, I cannot be a bystander as an adult.
I was completely separated from my family. They pushed us into showers and gave us, when first of all we were afraid to go in, thinking that gas might come out. But gas did not come out, but water did. After we were showered, all women's hair was cut. And we were all bereft of our names and given a tattoo, which I still carry on my arm, A15049. That was my name. God forbid if I didn't hear. You can't imagine the meaning that I or anyone, if we had forgotten our name. Life in Auschwitz is almost impossible to describe the cruelty. I cried continuously, missing my siblings, my parents, my family. Unfortunately, my crying didn't help me any. Next to me in my bunk was a lady, maybe in her 40s, by the name of Elsie. She tried to be like a surrogate mother to me. Please, Rose, don't cry. They're not gonna help. Maybe we'll go down back one day. Maybe we find our parents. Maybe we find our siblings. On and on, encouraging me. And I continuously cried. We get to get up at 4:30 in the morning. We had to stay in the coal roll due to the fact that the couple had to run in and out. The count was never the same. Every few days, a doctor by the name of Mengele would go through our lines, which we called Angel of Death. In spite of Elsie continuously encouraged me, I wanted to die. And when Dr. Mengele was going through my lines, he was going around with a stick. To the right, you had the chance to live. To the left, you were too weak to work anymore. And so I made up my mind, when he gets to me, if he sends me to the right, I'm going to raise my hand and ask him if I can go to the left. Sure enough, after a few days, Dr. Mengele was going through. When he got to me with a stick, he pushed me to the right. I raised my hand, he turned around. Was ist los, in German? I said, sir, could I go to the left, please? And with the stick pushed me to the right. But thank God, I have to thank God first, and Dr. Mengele second. So I still being here and being able to tell you what was happening to me. After a few weeks, we were sent to work and to carry stones from one side to the other. I don't know if for any reason at all. But the kitchens were always on the women's side. And the men would come to grab their kettles of food and bring us some news in a little piece of paper and give it to the one in the kitchen. One day somebody tried to give me a little piece of paper while at work. Oh my God, how can I describe to you when I opened that paper? My little sister was already a few weeks or maybe months in Auschwitz. But how in the world can I get united with her? I just was going crazy, knowing my sister's a few blocks away, not knowing how can I get united with her. Start to believe what Elsie kept on telling me and encouraging me. And so, with all my might, I kept on bugging Elsie. For some reason, since she was German, and those cutters, most of them were German, she was able to find one of them to help her. And two people, me and Elsie, went over to my sister's barracks and took from my sister's barracks to her. I can describe you that night. Gee, we couldn't sleep that night at all. We talked, we kissed, we hugged, we promised each other we'd never be separated again. Sure enough, we never were. We were told that the Russians are bombarding too heavily, and we were going to be sent out. If Auschwitz was bad, no comparison to Bergen-Belsen, in my opinion. No border. 1 to 2 hours. Dirt. No beds. Laying on the floor. Mice, rice, lice. All you had to do, put your arm on it, you took out handfuls of lice. You couldn't keep yourself clean. You had no water to do it. But thank God, it was already the beginning of 1945. We were liberated by the English on April 15, 1945. And immediately they said they're gonna burn our camp completely down because nothing but worms. A big tank drove in our camp, asking us where we would like to go, throwing care packages. What a mistake. The people who grabbed those care packages, unfortunately, we found out afterwards 90% passed away due to the fact our stomach could not digest that food. And so they lost their life already being liberated. It was in 1950 that I came to the United States. I leapt down, I kissed the earth. People laughed at me, what's she doing? What did she found? I said, I didn't find nothing but wonderful earth. And being independent and being in a free country, this is why I bent down and kissed it. This is what happened to me as a child of 12 to almost my 16 and a half. I hope what happened to me never happens again. We lost 6 million people, 1.5 million children. I hope with all my heart it never happens again.